Hi, everybody. Hey, it's Kathy from Laying Groundwork, and I am here to just have a brief conversation about something that I've been working on that I wanted to share with all of you. So one of the things, of course, that's really, really important as we are really, as individuals, trying to move into a more coherent or cohesive way of being in the world in terms of how we think and how we behave with where we're trying to go and what our kind of our life values and our what we believe our purpose on the planet is. So one of the things that many times can get in the way, and I think that all of us have some level of experience with this, is what we would refer to, of course, are negative thought patterns or even thinking or thought traps. So they can be anything, and they vary, of course, from person to person and based on our individual experiences from childhood all the way through adulthood. We develop these ways of thinking, and they can be generally in the realm of us not feeling like we have what Albert Bandura referred to as agency. So this ability to see that our actions, our behaviors, our choices actually make a difference in the outcome of events in our lives. So there is, so some of the thinking that can be pretty prevalent out there is to believe that you're at the mercy of other people, right? Another one might be, and I've heard people say this, I just have terrible luck. And my personal favorite is my timing is off. So it feels to me like I'm not in the right place at the right time for X, Y, or Z, fill in the blank to happen. Okay. So many times these ways of thinking, these negative thoughts that arise, come out of what is referred to as thought or thinking traps. And there are bunches of them. And some of the most common ones are things like mind reading, like believing that we actually know what someone else is thinking, or fortune telling, thinking that, well, it doesn't matter what I do, this is how things are going to play out anyway. Also, another way that we fall into thought or thinking traps is thinking in terms of black and white. So it's very extreme, and it is really, there's no shades of gray. It's either this or that. Filtering, I'm really personally really good at this one. I like to see situations and things in the world that actually support my point of view. So one of my teachers love to use the example of this of, for example, a person who thinks, let's say a young woman who thinks that all men are just jerks. And so that's a deeply held belief of hers. And so she could be literally in a room with 100 guys, 99 of them being really nice. She filters all of those 99 really nice guys out and finds the one guy who's a jerk because it supports her way of thinking and what she already believes. And then, of course, there's catastrophizing. I'm also pretty darn good at this one. So one event that maybe doesn't play out the way that I would like it to just means that nothing's going to work and it's just going to turn out badly. And so it's really maximizing the impact of a relatively insignificant circumstance or event. And it also could be minimizing something that is really significant. So there are both ends of that spectrum there. So we can do emotional reasoning, which is us just feeling like, oh, I just don't feel like it today. I have a friend who's like, well, it's not the right emotional moment for me. And there is a way that we kind of drop into this way of thinking that the outside circumstances need to be X, Y, and Z in order for us to be able to move whatever it is forward. Okay. So one of the things that we can do, and there's many suggestions about how we can work with these, but one of the ones that I find to be really super effective is to just really start to challenge these thoughts as they arise. So one of the things that I like to do is I like to, when I find myself dropping into one of these thought patterns, I like to really think about, okay, so what is actually the event that triggered this? So what are the facts? Not how I reacted to it, but what are the facts of this event? And then also I like to look at what was the strength, so to speak, of my emotional response. You know, did I like fly off the charts? Was it a relatively minor, you know, upheaval? Where am I, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, where was my emotional response there? And then I also like to identify the thought that arose, and then identify whatever thinking trap or traps. There can be, you know, some of these really overlap pretty nicely. And so it might be 2 or 3 of them that, you know, you kind of find yourself in a place of. So identifying those. And then based on the facts, as well as your actual lived factual experience, you can start to challenge these belief systems, these thinking traps. So what is the actual evidence? And to recognize, you know, and be really transparent with yourself and really honest with yourself. Is this just a habit of thought, or is this actually a real thing? And so once you start to work in that direction, then you have some capacity to start to generate some ways of thinking about this event and thinking about this experience in different ways. So you're kind of creating some alternative ways of responding to this event. I always like to say that you get extra credit for action items. So if your list or alternative ways of thinking includes something that is an action item, like you're going to do something, you're going to call someone, whatever it is, you get some extra credit for that. And then once you've gone through this experience, just go back and check your emotions and kind of see, has that shifted anything for you? Okay, so the ability to actually many times do something that works in a productive or useful direction can be really helpful in helping to discharge the continual spinning thoughts as well as the emotions around them. Okay, so thanks very much. I really appreciate you joining me today for this, and I look forward to sharing more information with you. Thank you.